Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. We are back with another match preview. The games are coming thick and fast, and they're only going to get even more frequent as the month of December rolls into play and it goes on. I'm Scott. I am your host for this one. And this week, I am joined by Daniel, Andy, and Daryl. Daniel, mate, it's another Champions League game, so we'll get you back on board. But you do obviously know more than Champions League football. But how are you today?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good, thanks. Having a good weekend, nice and chilled. Cracking result yesterday. That's the most important thing. So whenever Newcastle win, tend to be a lot happier than when we lose. And we've had a couple of defeats the last couple of weekends, obviously prior to the international break. So yeah, much happier this weekend.
Yep. Andy, mate, have you recovered from Dortmund yet?
Yeah, I'm still in Dortmund. This is all just green screen. I'm used to come home. Yes, I have. It was weird going to the game against Chelsea. It just felt like it was the start of a new season. It felt like it had been so long since we last played. Yeah. But good to, that's how it is now. Routine wins against Chelsea, piece of cake. That's what it's like these days.
Just push them under the carpet.
Yeah, easy. And facing PSG again, maybe another routine win. Let's see.
And Daryl, mate, are you all packed? Are you going to Paris, right?
I am, yes, yeah. I'm almost all packed. I've still got a few things to sort out. I'm trying to work out some luggage sizes for the Eurostar because it's got a limit on the size of luggage. So just need to get that all sorted out and then I'll be ready to go. Again, just like Andy yesterday, looking forward, having enjoyed that result over Chelsea. Seems to be something about beating Chelsea that's quite nice. And just reliving every single moment of Thiago Silva having a complete meltdown in the first half when he fell over, and then in the second half giving Joe Linton the goal on a plate.
Yes, a former PSG player in Thiago Silva as well, which links us right nicely in to this preview. But before we get started with all of that, here's a little message from our sponsor. The GallowgateShots match preview is brought to you by Magpin. Magpin are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle United players, legends and retro kits. For more information, visit their website at magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. Yes, so Tuesday night, evening kickoff, 8 p.m. I believe it is, live on TNT Sports. We face PSG in the away leg of this fixture against them in Group F. Daniel, mate, the group is still wide open. Are we expecting a similar outcome to last time, or do we think it's going to be a revenge job from Paris for this one?
Personally, think it's going to be a revenge job. Paris Saint-Germain are a quintessential home team, pretty naff away. I think it's sort of proven in the previous two results against Milan, where they battered them 3-0 at home and got beat 2-1 away.
Yeah,
which makes our result away Milan look better and better and better, thankfully. Yes, I think if we can get anything out of this game, that's a massive, massive positive, especially considering we aren't going there with our full strength 11. We are still very, very depleted. I thought the lads did a cracking job at the weekend. A couple of cracks despite the 4-1, which may be cause for concern against a team like PSG, who are just outright better than Chelsea, 10th place Chelsea in the league. Thankfully, in the midst of all of our injuries, we've had some real shining lights come through, like Lewis Miley, like Tino Livramento, who, in my opinion, over the last 5 games has been our best player. With Anthony Gordon, who's sort of maintained his really high levels. So I think we've got positives coming out of the terrible situation that we're in. But I think this boils down to PSG having world-class players, whether we like it or not, being a bit naff away from home, but being excellent at home. Kylian Mbappe seems to score in every home game he plays in. So if you've got a spare fiver knocking around and you're a gambling person, I'm personally not a gambling man, but if you are, Mbappe at home is a knock-on bet, basically.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Andy, because looking at their form, I think they've only lost 3 games this season, and they have all been away from what I saw. And that was against us, against AC Milan, and then I believe it was maybe Rennes in the league. I don't know, but it was early on. What are your thoughts on this one? Is this a game you're looking forward to? Do you just want to get this one out of the way with and move on to Milan at home? Or do you think, you know what, we took it to them at St. James's, we can do the same thing over there?
Well, I think it's yes to both questions, really. Obviously, you've got to look forward to every Champions League game because, as we saw in the home leg, anything can happen. But unfortunately, I do agree. I do think this is going to be a bit of a stretch for us. PSG are in unbelievable form in the league. They've won the last 7 games in the league, I believe. The only loss they've had recently was that Milan game in the Champions League. The most recent game, they had 5 different scorers scoring 5 goals, and then the game before that, Mbappe scored a hat-trick. So at times a one-man team, at times not. But even after scoring a hat-trick, Luis Enrique was there criticising Mbappe, saying he needs to do more for the team. So they are really pushing themselves this year. Like you say, they're just a team full of world-class players. And even though we've gave a really good account of ourselves in the Champions League so far, you just feel like this game might be a stretch too far, going to a really difficult place to go. Smaller stadium than I realised, actually, looking into it, but still, they get a real good atmosphere going. As Daniel says, and he knows a lot more about this than I do, a team that lives for the home games. Even in Champions League campaigns in the past, they've always done pretty well at home. And I think I'm maybe jumping ahead slightly, but I do think we'll give a good account of ourselves again. I don't think we'll get rolled over, but I just think come 60 minutes, we're going to just be knackered. Even that first 11, there's going to be a lot of fatigue in the legs, and they can bring on more brilliant players. So might be a stretch too far, but still looking forward to it because this team's done amazing things in the last couple of years. Who knows what could happen?
Yeah, Daryl, mate, we recorded the match reaction to the Chelsea game earlier today, and it's now available on the channel. So after you've watched this, if you haven't done so, go and watch that one. Not you, Daryl, anyone watching. Although if you haven't watched it, Daryl, what are you doing?
I'll get it done.
Paris seem to be they're just on a good run at the minute. They seem to have, whatever happened against us, they've kind of brushed aside, and they've decided to, we're now going to play. Where I think when we looked at the home fixture, they were maybe a bit iffy, getting a bit, conceding goals. They were still getting wins, but they were conceding goals. Obviously, being at home, being on their own park with their own fans, it's going to be tough for us to expect to go through. Given the last game, we were able to rest a few bodies quite early and had the luxury of doing so, given the scoreline. We were able to take off the likes of Alex Isak. When it comes to this, are you expecting a same lineup as before? And Eddie's just telling me, go out there and do what you did last time, or do you think there's going to be a change in tactic at all against Paris Saint-Germain at home?
I think against PSG in the Parc des Princes, it's going to be one of those where you're going to have to go with a bit of a rearguard action. You're going to have to be mindful of what PSG will do in that stadium because, as we already mentioned, they like playing their games at home. They do really well in those games. I think you're right as well when you say that when they played us at St James's, they certainly got whatever was in their system out of it because of the form that they've been on since that game. And I think if we're thinking ahead, for me, I think it'll probably be the same 11 that started on Saturday against Chelsea. And like we say, we saw some rotation and some resting taking place towards the end of that game. And it's going to, like I say, it's going to be a case of probably us just soaking up PSG pressure and then or at least trying to break on them and taking advantage of that. So it's going to be a slight change. I think it was probably still, I think I mentioned it in the build up to the Bournemouth game when we did the preview for that, and sort of thinking that we'll try and impose our style of play on PSG, but in short bursts. So we'll do it in little spells. There'll be spells where you'll notice the team will push and press high, and it'll happen for a short period, and then we'll back off again, soak up the pressure, and then go again, and just try and do that throughout the game and try and manage the game in that way.
Yeah, it's interesting, Daniel. Obviously, PSG they tend to like to play a 4-4-2. Or it seems to switch into a 4-3-3. Every now and again. I was looking at the previous results, and it kind of switches every game depending on how they're playing. Obviously, arguably their best player at home is out injured in Zaire Emery in the home fixture. But like we saw, they've got players who can just come on. But are we? We tend to favour okay against a team that lines up the way that PSG does. But is it just going to be a case of it doesn't really matter how they line up because of the players they've got and the fact that they're at home?
Yeah, I think the home advantage definitely is going to help them on a number of levels. A, they're more comfortable playing at home. We've seen that by the league form. B, we aren't a great away team by any stretch. Next, they're not going to have to put up with our home support, not just because of playing away that they're not great anyway, but we were phenomenal at home in terms of a support. They don't have to contend with that at all. So you've got all these factors that immediately just shift the balance back towards their favour a little bit. You're right, they're all over the place in terms of formations. They'll play 4-4-2s, 4-2-4s, which is played against us. I think that was in a hope of pinning back our fullbacks, which worked for about 5 or 6 minutes. And then once we figured them out, it was good night Vienna, because there's no adaptability. They couldn't change anything around due to the personnel that you'd chosen. They've recently gone a little bit more often with 4-3-3s, which in my opinion is by far and away their best formation. It allows them to be a little bit more flexible in terms of switching between that and a 4-4-2. And you're going to get the most out of Mbappe because he's got a little bit more space. He's not having to wander around with Moani in there. Ramos started at the weekend. Moani might start. Moani, in my opinion, played better than Ramos when he came off the bench. Both got a goal. Moani's was significantly better. The Ramos goal was a terrible, terrible goalkeeping error. He's went to catch borderline pass back by Ousmane Dembele, who overall had a fantastic game the other night on Friday. He spilled it in classic Poacher. Following up on the shot, he's tapped it into a borderline open goal. So I'm still not overly worried about players like Gonçalo Ramos at the moment. Dembele was on a great run of form before he played us at home, and then we saw what happened there. He's got a very weak mentality, Dembele. He's got all the talent in the world, but he gives up a lot. He gives up quite easy. So I think I'll probably expect Tino to play left back in this one, given Hall's performance against Dortmund. I think it's a bit harsh to single him out to say he had a bad game. I don't think he had a very good game, but I thought Julian Brandt absolutely terrorized our entire defense. He played on the left, he played on the right. He actually started through the middle. That's his position. He drifted, and every single player he pitted himself against, he made a mug of. In to single out one player when I thought other people in that defense were far worse than Lewis Hall, particularly for our first goal. You could see either the mental tiredness or the physical tiredness. So it looked like laziness. I don't think it was laziness. I think it was genuinely tiredness. I think Tino Livramento is a much better player. And again, in terms of that back four, him and Shah have been our two informed defenders out the four, in my opinion. Just my opinion. So I think we'll do well there. But again, it's Mbappe who at home is just a different breed. He's a different animal. And when they have that three in midfield, it means they can match us in midfield. We aren't going to have the energy of Tonali for 60 minutes like he did at home, 65 minutes, whatever it might be, before having those fresh legs come in. I'm not sure how the other lads are doing injury-wise in terms of midfield, like Sean Longstaff. Obviously, Willock's going to be out. To have those lads hang on for 90 minutes in the middle when they're likely going to go 3 for 3, and they have players off the bench, even though their best central midfielder is missing in Zaire Emery, I think that's going to be a really, really difficult ask. I totally agree with Andy in a sense that I'm still excited. We were out of this for so long. You can't just pick and choose when you're excited for these games. You have to just go on with full faith and enjoy it for whatever it is that we're going to get out of it, and be proud of the lads for. I mean, I think it's absolutely outrageous that in this group of death, we've got 4 points, which is more than what Man United have got in their group, with Copenhagen, Galatasaray, and fair enough, Bayern. We are like 6th in the league, but within touch and distance of even first. We are still in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. We've got the FA Cup to come up. Yeah, I just think it's I think it's fairly outstanding how we're doing, considering all the injuries as well. So you can't pick and choose when you support your club. You're going with full faith.
Absolutely.
I think that our benefit for this is we don't need to win this game. Nick a point, which is something that the other two teams weren't able to do away from home. And that's a point gained on everyone else when you look at it that way. If you go for 0-0, and I will be absolutely chuffed to bits if we got it.
Yeah, Andy, Daniel mentioned about the middle of the park and obviously the competition. The fact that, arguably we have only 3 central midfielders available at the moment, and they all played, Bruno and Joe Linton played for the full 90 at the weekend, and then I think Miley came off around 70 minutes. Is there any worry that, fatigue might start to kick in on any of those three, and that's where Paris Saint-Germain can hurt us?
Yeah, well, that's been the worry for, the last month or two, whatever it's been. It feels like we almost have to win games in the first half or in the first 60 minutes, otherwise the legs are just going to go. I know that these guys are probably the fittest they've ever been in their entire career. Well, probably can't say that for Miley since he's like 12 years old. But he's still got that youthful energy. This is really where it boils down to how good is your sports science teams, how good your club doctor, how good are we at getting that recovery done. We know we've got that swanky new aqua facility at the training ground now. I'm sure that'll be getting put to good use. Although since we've got that, we've been getting more injuries. So I don't know how that works. But,
the paddling pools and the wheelie
yeah,
bins.
So yeah, that's obviously going
to.
Yeah, bring back the wheelie bins full of ice. Everything was fine at that point. But yeah, it's obviously a worry. And in the sort of game we're going to be playing, it doesn't feel like we're necessarily going to be putting in the same number of miles as we normally do. I think it will be very similar to Milan, where it's very much defending your own 18-yard box, not a sort of all-out park the bus. Because I think at Milan, we obviously tried to have a go. We really did try and press, and then we just thought this is not going to work. We're conceding far too many chances. I think it'll be similar against PSG. We'll play the way we play, but there's only so often you can do that if they're just going to be running in behind you all the time. And if the legs go, the best thing you can do is just go into a low block, be compact, try not to concede. I think we've seen in the Champions League so far, it's a bit of a cliche, but it is all about those big moments in every game we've had. If Almiron doesn't score that first goal against PSG, who knows what would have happened. Obviously, we had the Dortmund away game, Joe Linton, 50 pence head, missing that header. Who knows what would have happened if that had gone in. Milan away game, Rafael Leao fluffing his lines after dribbling past 4 or 5 defenders, and then Longstaff shot. We're seeing it in all of these games. There's a chance for both teams. And it just feels like in this game, if the legs do, like you say, what about fatigue? Even if the legs have gone, if there's a chance to break in the 90th minute, Gordon's still on the pitch. We know these lads can run till the final whistle goes. You just never know what's going to happen. But yeah, those lads are going to need a long ice bath in the wheelie bin after this one's done, I think.
You could just swim back through the channel. That'll be the perfect ice bath. Just drag them on a dinghy or something. No, sorry, we'll not talk about dinghies in the channel. That's for another type of podcast. Daryl, mate, obviously, we saw the likes of Paul Dummett and Matt Ritchie come on at the weekend. Now, Matt Ritchie isn't actually in the Champions League squad, so he cannot come on Tuesday. And I can't believe I'm saying that, by the way, that, we didn't consider Matt Ritchie and Paul Dummett in. But,
what an oversight by Eddie Howe.
I know, who would have thought of it. But they are the players that, yes, they don't have experience in the Champions League, and we know that, but they have experience in playing in pretty big games for Newcastle. And those are the type of players that, you'd look at maybe at the 70th minute, 80th minute, you think, do you know what? Get yourself on, just level the ship a little bit. If things is not going our way, or if even things are going our way, just either ride this out to a draw, ride this out to win, or even damage limitation. It could get to that as well. Are those the type of players that you need to kind of turn to, go, right, I'm relying on you and your experience in, as a professional.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you think about the lads themselves, I mean, they have such a wealth of experience between them. And it is going to be a shame that Ritchie isn't going to be an option on Tuesday. But again, you look at Paul Dummett, and he's been asked a few questions recently. He came on against Chelsea on Saturday and did a great job coming in, put a couple of good tackles in. And even in the game down at Old Trafford in the League Cup, he was absolutely amazing in that game, and also in the previous round as well. So he's been performing, and he's performed really well when he's been asked to come into the team and do a job. A little bit like Lascelles, when Lascelles came in after Sven Botman got injured. We weren't sure what to expect, and he's come in and he's played an absolute blinder. And again, just to hark back to the Chelsea game, he fully deserved that goal, and I was really pleased that he got it. But when you look at the rest of the bench that we'll probably be putting out, and you think about the names, and you only have to go back to the last game against Dortmund to win the names that were on that bench, and you're thinking, well, who are you? We're literally on the bare bones in terms of the depth that we have because of this injury crisis that we're going through at the moment. But I'm a little bit more confident about that after the way that the lads were able to come on at the end against Chelsea, just to be blooded into that team and to get that experience. And it was great. I think Andy described it best yesterday when he said somebody was just holding down the R2 button when they came on and were just sprinting around the place. It was really, really good to see. So you would hope that if we are going to have to call on those fringe players, that it's going to be in a better situation where we're maybe a goal or two down by that point. I would like to think that we'd be able to get that point in that stadium. I don't know if it'd be 0-0 or 1-1 or whatever, and we'll come to that a little bit later. But yeah, I'm hopeful that we can at least get something from the game.
Absolutely. We'll stick with you, Daryl. As you like to do in these Champions League previews, you've prepared a little bit about the officials. I'm not going to call it Ref Watch because that's been taken by Sky. But if someone can think of a better word for this, just let us know in the comments. And for the Milan one, we'll maybe get a title or something set up for you. I don't know.
So again, I have to give a massive thanks to my best mate Paul, who provided the goods this morning, and absolutely fantastic of him to get all of this information to me in such a good fashion, I should say. So to kick us off, the bulk of the refereeing team for this game are going to be from Poland. And this is where I'm going to have to look down at my notes here because the pronunciations are a bit of a mouthful. So the main referee, who I'll say we might be familiar with from those who watch a lot of European football, or even as a hint back to the last World Cup, because he refereed the World Cup final, is Szymon Marciniak, and he is you might recognise him. He is a bit of a bald, so he's got a bald head, and he also refereed last season's Champions League final.
He's a Luigi Colina regen, isn't he?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, he's refereed all over the world, and he's also had a little stint out in the Middle East, refereeing games in the Middle East as well. He's already familiar to this group because he refereed Dortmund v Milan earlier in the competition. And an interesting little stat, that he hasn't issued a straight red card in any game since the 21-22 season. So he's gone a long time without giving out a straight red. And I can give some little stats of him. So for this season so far, and I'll just include the Champions League because he's had 3 games in the Champions League so far this season. That's including a one in the qualifying stage. 15 yellow cards, 1 penalty, obviously no red cards. And in last season's Champions League, including the qualifying rounds, he had 9 games in total, 41 yellow cards, 4 penalties, and interestingly 2 red cards as a result of second yellows in those games. So he's going to be assisted by here we go, Tomasz Listowicz, Adam Kupczyk, and then the 4th official is Paweł Rachowski, and then we've also got on VAR, who's also from Poland, we've got Tomasz, now here we go, Kwiatkowski, I think that's how you pronounce his surname, so hopefully I think you did assistant.
That's what happens when you won't start in the morning. You got a bit of a Kwiatkowski. Sorry.
Too right. And the assistant VAR is a Croatian chap called Ivan Bebek, and that's our refereeing team for the game.
Excellent. There you have it. So that is the officials for the game on Tuesday. Daniel, before we get into our predictions, I've got one question for you that I'm not sure of. Obviously, we've talked about playing some of the youngsters. Now, if I remember rightly, you have to name a B squad for the Champions League, right? You've got your A team and your B team. Do we have to have named all of the youngsters, or is it like the Premier League where you can just kind of bring them into the squad whenever you need?
I wasn't aware personally that was a thing. I was under the impression that you named your 25-man squad, and there were certain stipulations around players that you don't need to pick, being youth players and homegrown talent. Now, whether those players are eligible to fall within that, I actually haven't checked. That's a really good, because I didn't think I'd get to a point where I need to check.
Yeah, exactly. Why I'm asking, I don't know myself.
Yeah, I was like, that's a very good question. Like I say, I've personally not heard of the A and B. I've heard of, you pick your 25-man squad or a 26-man squad, and you pick and obviously you've got a youth team that go into the youth version of the competition, but that's it as far as I'm aware. I think if you have any emergencies, you can apply to UEFA to make emergency concessions. That usually revolves around goalkeepers, and it's happened less because the man squads went up. It used to be a 22-man squad, and it's went up to 23, then 24, 25, and I don't know if it's still 25, it might be 26 now, but they constantly made it bigger and bigger so that people didn't have to constantly file for these things where the keepers were getting injured. But yeah, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Hopefully, it's just anyone under the age of 18, 19. I appreciate one of the lads that came on. I don't know if he'll be eligible. He's 2021. Diallo, I think it is. He's 2021. He's obviously, I don't think he's from the UK, so I don't think he classes as homegrown yet. And I think you have to, but it depends on whether he's came from the system, because I think if you've been playing for within England from a certain age for like up to 6-7 years, then you get classed as homegrown. You don't actually have to be from the UK. But again, it's when he was bought by his previous club and then let go. I think it was it West Ham that let him go?
I thought he was at Man United.
I think it might be a different Diallo.
I don't know.
I think
they already had a Diallo.
Either way, the short answer to that question, Scott, I don't know, mate.
No worries. I just thought I'd ask. I thought maybe you would know. If you know, let us know in the comments below. We will move on to our predictions for this one, and I want 2 predictions. I want scoreline, but I also want how many goalkeepers are we going to name on the bench? Because I think that's another prediction that we should all be going for as well. Andy, mate, I'm going to come to you first on this one.
Why do you always do this?
I don't always do this. Remember last time I didn't do this because you said, why do you always do this the last time as well? Anyway, what is your prediction for this one?
So I feel like I got a bit more confident when Daniel was talking before, and he was saying about how you've got to get excited for these games and blah, blah, blah. But it just feels like this is one of these times I'm going to have to be realistic and say we're not going to get anything. The positive fan in me thinks that, we'll hold out and we'll sneak a goal at the end, but I feel like that's just me with complete rose-tinted spectacles on. So I do think that this will be a stretch too far for us. All I'm hoping from this game is that we give a good account of ourselves, we don't get rolled over, and we get a bit of, we keep all that confidence that we've built coming from the Chelsea game. So I think we'll lose 2-0. I think we'll hold out for the first half, and then it'll just be an onslaught, and I think the legs will go and we'll just struggle. So I think we will lose this one. And like we said before, it's really just that final home game where that's the Hail Mary that we need to win. So 2-0 defeat, 3 keepers on the bench, Karius right wing for the second half because we've got no one else.
Excellent. Daryl, mate, as you're going, I'll let you give your prediction as well.
Right. So I'm going to go with 1-1. I think we'll be able to get a point out there. I think it'll be a tough watch, I think, to be honest. I think it'll be a lot of us trying to soak up what PSG will be throwing at us. But I'll go with a 1-1. And in terms of keepers on the bench, I have a funny feeling that Gillespie wasn't named in that 26-man squad, so I think it'll be 2 keepers on the bench.
There you go. Daniel, mate.
I've got an answer for your previous question, Scott. So
there we go.
You're right in terms of the list A and list B. It's a 25-player squad for list A. Your list B are for players born on or after January the 1st, 2001. So it's like an under 22s category, I think. Depending on when this was written, it might be an under 21s category now. This might be like a year old or so. Moreover, posh language, since his 15th birthday, he must have played for the club for an uninterrupted period of 2 years or a total of 3 consecutive years. He can have a maximum of 1 loan period to a club from the same association for a period not longer than 1 year. Each club must also have at least 2 goalkeepers on list A and 3 after combining list A and list B. So that goes back to Daryl's point. I think the prediction of 2 goalkeepers on the bench is probably correct. I have absolutely no idea about our list B. I've not seen our list B. So that is going to be something for every hungry Geordie to be jumping on the internet to try and find out to see who's going to be on our bench. Can we even field a full bench? And in terms of my prediction, I think it's going to be 2-0 to PSG.
There you have it. So for me,
I am available to be on the bench, Eddie. If you're listening, I will play if he insists. I've got a decent.
Were you born after 2001?
No.
Are you on list A?
Harry was.
I am named.
Yes, Harry on the bench.
I've been reading those emergency provisions. I can be named actually as an amateur.
You see the paper, there's Callum Wilson's name scribbled out, and you've got Andy Burnham. And like the bottom of Woody's boot on Toy Story.
Yeah, this is engraved on his Eddie. on the bottom of his shoe.
Eddie, aye.
So for me, yeah, I mean, I hate predicting a loss, and do you know what? For the Chelsea game, I think I was a bit too, I was just holding back a little bit, and I said, we'll sneak a 1-0 win and see what happened there. And I seem to have, whenever I do this, we seem to do the exact opposite. But
So say 5-0 PSG.
I think it's going to be a Paul Dummett hat trick. I think it's going to be 3-0 to Paris Saint-Germain. No, it's going to be. I think we'll get beat 1-0 if I'm being honest with you. But I think it'll be very close, and I think it's going to be a late, 75 to 85 minutes where they finally and unfortunately break us down. But I'm hanging on to the goal difference because we're on 0 at the minute. So if we can just get on a -1, that's okay going into AC Milan. And I'm also hoping that Dortmund beat AC Milan because then that leaves that last game. Oh, it's going to be some game, that one against AC Milan, if we're both vying for 3rd place, which I think I'd take at this point. I know the league is wide open, and if we nick a win today, we could go top of that league, providing on other results. But I think we now have to really look for 3rd.
Just to let you know,
it's 7. We'll be on 7 points, so we'll be trying 7. And if Dortmund get beat,
we'll be but it goes on head-to-head, not goal difference.
Oh, yeah, it does, doesn't it?
So
what a stupid rule that is as well, by the way.
Yeah, so we can't go above Dortmund if it's equal points. We need, but ultimately at this stage, it's not about, for me personally, it's not about finishing top. It's about qualifying. We should all be Dortmund fans going into Tuesday's fixtures as well as Newcastle fans. Obviously, our results are the most important. But if Milan win and we don't, that's I think probably good night Vienna for us.
How many goalkeepers, Scott?
Oh yeah, sorry. Well, 2, because like I say, we haven't named Gillespie. So unless we've got a young goalkeeper who we can bring on as well for the 3rd, no, I'll go for 2 goalkeepers this time. But I'm expecting a full cameo from Paul Dummett at some point, just to give him Champions League, so he can say, I played against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. I mean, at the age of, what is he, 34? I don't know. Anyways, we will stick a pin in this one. What do you think the score is going to be? What do you think the lineup is going to be? How many keepers are going to be on the bench? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've liked this video, just scroll down from it, hit the little thumbs up. If you want to know when new videos go live on the channel, you first have to subscribe. But then once you subscribe, you can hit the notification bell, and that'll give you an alert on whatever device you watch YouTube on when new videos go live. If you want to go one step further, we do have a membership program. It is $2.99 or $4.99 a month. You can decide what tier you want to pay for. That gets you early access to videos, exclusive access to certain videos as well, and it also gets you access to the Discord and the Telegram groups. Boys, does anybody want to add anything before we end this one?
I just want us. Sorry, Andy. I'll just add that I want to come out of this with a clean bill of health still, because I can't afford any more injuries, can we? Not really.
I think any game that we don't get another injury is a victory in anybody's eyes. And yes, Andy, Daryl did give a 1-1 draw.
Daniel. Because he answered your question about the B team. Did you actually give a score?
Yes, said 2-0 PSG.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks for paying attention. If you've been watching this and you can pay attention more than Andy, let us know. We'll get you on next week. No, we will see you all probably in the reaction to this PSG game. Always Smiling Faces podcast will be on as well tomorrow. Like I said earlier, there is a match reaction to that Chelsea victory. And then we'll be back at it for a match preview for, is it Man U next? I've lost. I don't know when this game is. So many coming up. So yeah, we will be forever busy on this channel. And there'll probably also be an episode of Canny Chatter or FIFA or something else coming on between then as well. So busy. Lots of content. Get subscribed. And we will see you all in the next one. Thanks, everybody. Ta-da.
Bye.